Hey. Welcome. I hope that you have been plugging in because when I say the tea has been real, right? We want everybody to just be prepared. That's why I asked all these beautiful women to join us. We just want everybody to be prepared for what is to come because even though we're in the middle of like quote unquote huge losses, liquidity squeezes all over the world globally. We're seeing what's happening in Russia and China, moving over to Bitcoin. We see, tons of money, quote unquote, supposedly being lost with banks like Silicon Valley and, Signature Bank now, Swiss. I mean, so much is happening. And we should all be asking ourselves, like, okay, so what's the play? Because everybody's not struggling, everybody's not losing. There's some people that are really winning. And in the first conversation that I had with Kim Kiyosaki, we were talking about real estate. Like, I'm a digital asset girl. Let's be clear. Love my Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, super grateful for it. By the grace of God, I've made multiple millions of dollars in the digital space. But don't sleep. If you are going to talk about for real, becoming a multiple millionaire, hard assets need to definitely be a part of that portfolio. And it's not just about you buying your house, which I want you to do that. And if you've done that, great job. And if you bought an investment property, great job. But you know what? There's always more. And it's all about scaling. And how do you grow anything? You grow through relationships. Your destiny moves at the speed of your relationships, right? So who you're connected to, what you're listening to, their triggers, their think tanks, their ideas. And then, of course, Naja and I talked about this digital space where you need to be keeping your cryptocurrency, how you need to be thinking about it. We talked about bail out, bail in, and how much money you should be looking at having, gold, silver, and the like. So now I'm excited because I'm bringing on another beautiful sister of mine that we're about to be doing some really great things together. A podcast. Yes. Oh, it's going to be so good. Can't wait. But Benicia Poole-Watson, this beautiful Black woman, when I say she is doing her thing, she owns a bank that we all need to be supporting and getting and doing our thing in any way that we can, right? Because she is really about the people. She is really about the community. She was just telling me a few minutes ago how she does this work with these high schoolers, and now the class is growing. And that's what's supposed to happen. When you get about wealth, I want you to understand wealth has a purpose. It's not just for you to have a Lambo and a Cullinan. Yes, I want you to have that. Yes, I want you to have all your clothes, jewelry, all that, but it's also to be a distribution center to see how many people's lives can I touch? How many people can I impact? How many people can I help? How many people can I send to school? How much can I give to Howard? How much can I give to Spelman? How much can I give to my local church? Like, ultimately, wealth should be used as a distribution center. It should be coming in and going out and coming in and going out. And guess what? When God knows he can trust you to bring it in, because you're going to release it quickly and easily, because ultimately the purpose is to make impact and change people's lives. And so that's what we're doing today. So get your pen and paper. Let me welcome my beautiful sister, brilliant Benaisha Poole-Watson, to the platform. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, so you're looking beautiful. It's the hat, the t-shirt for me. Yes, girl. Giving. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so excited to talk to everyone on this Wealth Mastermind and just let them know, that they can and they should. So I'm excited.
Yeah, she thought she could and she did, or he thought he could and he can.
Yep.
And did. Benicia, it is a lot happening right now in the economy that we want to help to kind of give people some direction to what they should be doing, how they should be thinking. So first, let's talk a little bit about your background. Were you like 5 years old, like, I'm gonna own a bank?
Actually, so I started in the space of entertainment. So I started modeling when I was 15. So essentially that was really my first job. And then went to college, got a couple degrees, joined the military, was working corporate America, and got into a space and place where I hit a glass ceiling in my corporate job. And it turned into entrepreneurship. But the way that I got guided into entrepreneurship is I asked God to lead me, guide me, show me where he wanted me to be. Because hitting that glass ceiling was so traumatizing. I was so used to having basically like a jetpack on my back. Everything I touched, I just continued to go up. And at a young age in my 20s, I'm running an office with people who are double my age and half my size, and I'm just going up the ranks really quick. God said he had a different plan for me. He had a different direction for me. And when I had gotten to a space where I raised my hand for every position that I worked in, I did that job, showed up early, stayed late, being the best I can be, and it just wasn't connecting to the next step, that what I thought would be the next step. So I turned to God and I said, God, let me know what you need me to do. Am I chasing my wild dreams, or am I chasing the dreams of other people and what they say I should do? And God spoke to me. He said, get a real estate license. And after hearing the voice of God telling me to do that, I'm like, real estate license? How am I supposed to do that? And I just followed exactly what he told me to do. I opened my laptop. I ordered the real estate course. I got the books. I passed the test on the first time. I sold 200 houses my first year in real estate as an agent. I sold 350 when the average real estate professional only sells like 8 to 10 houses, if that.
Wow.
I was doing something that was extraordinary and had no idea that I was in that space. I just was doing what God told me to do and just following that path. And I continue to help people. I continue to just give people the things that I would want someone to give to me from my heart as a servant. It started to grow so big that I made so much money. I took $1 million cash and I bought a bunch of land all over Dallas, Texas. And so my question to myself was, should I buy this land in Texas or should I go home to California where I'm from? God said, do it in Dallas. So I bought a bunch of lots all over Dallas, Texas, and I started building houses just based on the vision and the expertise of knowing what a customer would like when they go into a home and knowing what a seller needs to do to sell that home, because I helped so many people. And I 10x my profit.
Wow.
I 10x my profit from building houses and being able to put my own sign in the yard and not having to pay any other real estate professionals. And then after that, that led me into banking, being able to go to conferences and speak about my journey about real estate and how I sold houses and how I build houses. And that's great because the average person doesn't speak on it. I thought I hit like I'm doing something great. Well, God had bigger dreams and plans for me. And that's how I got into banking. Someone actually walked up to me and said, would you like an opportunity to own a bank? And I'm like, no, I'm not interested. I don't do financing. I don't even have education. I don't have a degree in finance, and I don't want to be an accountant. Like, I don't know anything about banking. I had no idea that bank owners they're not employees. They are the owner. Just like doctors don't own the clinics they work in. Someone owns that building. Someone owns that facility. And from that point, I ended up starting my bank. It's a federally chartered bank. I'm a direct lender. And I stay in the space of real estate, even though I could have gone FDIC insured. I chose not to because I had a direct connection to understanding real estate and knowing that 50% of our loans are denied as African Americans, as minorities, and dealing with so many people that were turned down. I said, if I can do something that will give them a safe place and a safe space to do business, I could change the trajectory of our whole entire culture by providing funding to those that people who look like us are always dismissed. We're considered a high risk. So we'll get into it, but I offer so many things that connect directly to our people that we have $1.6 trillion in spending power. Now we have a place to give money, to put money, and to make our money grow.
Girl. I love this. So obviously you're clear that you are where you are because of God.
100%.
And he was ordering your steps. So obviously you go and you buy this land. So you make you're making a good money in real estate. What gave you the inclination? Because a lot of times people make money and they go out and buy cars or go blow it all, but you had an inclination to go and buy, how many acres did you say it was?
No, I bought different plots of land. So I didn't buy one big acreage. I just bought lots all over the place.
that end up equating to about $1 million worth of land?
$1 million of cash that I had $1 million, and I said, okay, I'm gonna spend this million cash. And I just started buying.
So what gave you, was it because was in real estate, so you knew the power of land and you knew what it meant? So you said, I'm going to buy the land and I'm going to build the house.
Immediately. It wasn't like I was going to hold the land. That wasn't the goal. The goal was for me to turn this land into a structure. And that way that they know I was here. What can you do that's going to outlive you? These buildings will be here when we're long gone. The average home is 100 years old. It lasts 100 years without it falling apart. So, the average person may not be here 100 years. So what are we going to do that's going to outlive us? What are we going to touch that's going to outlive us? And it's going to be real estate.
And I'm so glad you said that, because one of the things we were talking about with Kim, there are a lot of, unfortunately, fake teachers in that they are wanting to teach something. Like, there's so many coaches, but they're not living it. And to me, like, I want to know that privately, this is really who you are.
Yep.
I don't want you pushing something because, you got a good graphic artist, you got a good graphic designer, you're polished, you can throw some lipstick and, a frontal or whatever and say, come follow me. Like, I need to know what your life is like. And so I love that you said, no, I'm taking this cash. I'm already in real estate. Obviously, there's a flow on my life here. I can sense the oil on it. Let me buy these properties. Let me build these homes. And you did exactly that. How much did mentorship play in you making those moves? Or was this just all really on your own? Or did you have mentors that were kind of supporting or guiding?
I begged for a mentor. I searched for a mentor. I looked for someone to help me, to influence me. And most people were just way too busy to give, the average person the time of day. And so now they come back and ask me questions. Now they come back and say, oh my God, beautiful.
Oh my gosh. That is so amazing. So you get the land, somebody comes to you. Okay, so you get the land, you build the homes, you sell them. And then then somebody comes up to you and says, you want to own a bank. You weren't really interested because you weren't in financing. And then something clicked. And you thought, I do want to do it because I want to help my people, because we're denied so much all the time. And so you start the bank. How long ago was that?
2021.
2021, you started the bank. And as you're starting the bank, what's going through your mind?
So banking is completely different from the average real estate transaction, right? It's so much deeper than that. So first I was like, oh shoot, when I used to give my loan officers a hard time because they were financing my deals, now I had compassion. Now I had empathy for what they went through. It's a lot of moving parts behind funding deals. It's not easy. And so as a real estate professional, you just bring your client, you write the contract, and then the client typically deals with the bank and their private information. And the real estate agent typically will contact the lender and say, hey, what's the status? Well, when you're asking what's the status, it's a lot of moving parts because a lot of customers have a lot of moving parts in their financial fingerprint. Sometimes they don't tell you everything. So I realized that it's so much that happens to get these deals funded. It's every customer's not going to close, right? And so, that was the first thing that I realized. And that was one of the most impactful things that I took from it. There's so many other things, but that's pretty much one of the biggest ones.
Strong. So you started doing, so the bank opens 2021. How long did it take before you were able to start helping people get real estate and doing deals?
2 weeks.
Wow. And so I'm really excited about what we're doing together. We're doing the podcast together, business banking and real estate. So y'all watch out for that. Yes. I'm excited about us doing that, but I'm really excited about this whole, Tavaverse that I'm a partner in, that Benicia, our bank, is going to be funding most of these properties. And I'm so excited about that because I know for me, I feel like it's all about community. It's all about family. It's all about, that divine connection. People, when you get together with people that have the same core values, and one of the things that I love about you is that you have a love for God and that you really love people. Like, you genuinely want to make a change. And when you start talking about, I'm going to connect with somebody or I'm going to follow somebody, it needs to be like, because they genuinely love people. Because you cannot make impact if you really don't like people. Like, when we see people, we don't see dollar signs. We see, how can we add value? How can I help you get better? How can I help you get in a home? How can I help you get your investment properties? What can we do to scale you? So talk a little bit about, because we're going to be helping people, of course, get their credit together. We got that together. So let's just say I'm bringing, Sue coming to you. Sue is ready to get some investment properties. Walk us kind of through those steps, because we're going to be able to help a lot of people. Those of you that are watching right now, if you're not in your own home, we want to help you get in your own home. If you're in your own home, but maybe you have one investment property, we want to help you get 3 more. We want to help you get 5 more. Like, wherever you are organically right now, or maybe some of you want to get rid of your single families like I did and move over to multifamilies and apartment buildings. Wherever you are, we can help you in that banking process. So talk a little bit about how we can help, the Sues and the Keishas and the Dannys out there, because they're going to be reaching out to us saying, okay, what's next?
So the first step that we want to make sure that people have is a job. You'd be surprised how many people go into the pipeline to start home ownership. It's like, do you work? It's like, no, I don't. And I haven't worked for a long time. Well, you can't buy a home without a job. The only loan that you can qualify for is a debt service loan. We'll talk about that. But traditionally, you have to have employment. You have to have employment for at least 2 years. Stable income is what the banks are looking for. So if you change fields, if you went from being a nurse, maybe you start at the basic, somebody who's just giving shots, and then you graduated to LVN, and now you're an RN. You've made a transition. You've shown that you've elevated. You stayed in the same field. That's okay. But if you've gone from being a doctor to being an attorney, that's 2 different spaces. You need 2 years of consistency in the same type of space. And that's what banks are looking for. The second thing is your credit. People think credit is nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It's just a trick. No, it's not a trick, because when you go and buy a home, they're going to look at your credit score. So you have to be credit worthy. You have to also unfreeze your credit. We're in a day and age where we're all trying to protect ourselves. A lot of times we're getting ready to initiate the credit pool. We can't pull your credit if it's frozen. So before you get to a bank, unlock it. So the third thing that you're going to need to pay attention to is your debt to income ratio. So what does that mean? That means that your debt that you have going out, any revolving bills that you pay, is going to be evaluated and looked at compared to how much income you make. So the average loan is going to require no more than 50% debt to income ratio, no more than 50%. That's your FHA loans, that's your entrepreneur bank statement loans, where they only look at your bank statement, no tax returns. That's your 1099 only loans. That's going to be your debt service loans, no more than 50%. Conventional loans is the only one that wants to see less debt. So you can go up to 43% of debt. So how do you calculate your debt? There's going to be a debt calculator. Google it on the internet. You'll be able to find any debt calculator. You'll be able to plug in your bills. You multiply by a certain number, and then it gives you your average debt to income ratio. That's how you can kind of get ahead of it. If you don't know it and you don't understand, then you should do an application with the bank, and then they'll be able to kind of give you that number. But if you know that your bills are high, you're most likely going to only qualify for an FHA loan. And FHA has a limit on their loan limits. So you can't buy an $800,000 house on an FHA loan in the average city. Only in certain designated high income cities such as California, New Jersey, and places like Hawaii, they have higher loan limits. But the average city like Atlanta, Georgia is only $471,000. Dallas is like $450 or something like that. So you have a limit on how much you can buy. So what's going to happen is that if you don't know your debt to income ratio, you may put yourself in a box. And if you want to buy a home that's $600,000 and may not qualify for that FHA program, now you're back at square one. So the goal is to either reduce your debt or make more money through income.
Got it. That's good. Okay. How do student loans play a role?
Student loans do play a role because they are considered debt. So if you have a student loan payment, or if it's in deferment or forbearance, guess what? It doesn't go away. So the bank is going to calculate your number into your overall debt. So for instance, the FHA guideline allows you to the banks only to calculate your FHA debt at 0.5. So 0.5%. So if your debt is, let's just say you have $100,000 in student loans and you have no payments right now, they're going to project your payment at 0.5%, whatever that is, the number of your student loans, 100,000 times 0.5%. And that's what they're going to calculate as your debt automatically. If you are making payments, they will use the actual payment. So that's something that they literally just changed a couple years ago, because they used to give people a really hard time in the calculation of their student loans, which primarily affected minority groups of people, because we're the ones trying to educate ourselves, our income here, and the debt showing this, and then it wasn't balancing out. So it disqualified a lot of people to student loans. But now that they have restructured the way that they calculate, now we're able to qualify. So we have a 90% increase in minorities approval for FHA loans based on that recalculation of student loans.
That is amazing. So, all right. So that's why we got to make sure we keep bad debt, especially if it's not earning you money, keeping that low, making sure that you're not going from job to job, business to business, try to get some stability in your life financially. So then we'll help you get your credit together. We'll help you do a credit analysis. Then we can help you improve your credit within 3 to 6 months. And then that's where Benicia comes in, and we can say, okay, now we're ready to submit this loan. Her bank is actually helping me get an apartment building now. So those things are important. That's how you do have to have your stuff together, which is why you don't want to just be out here randomly buying Gucci bags or Louis Vuitton, trying to keep up with the Joneses. You got to know what season you in. You know what I mean? You got to know what season you in. And social media will put a subconscious pressure on you to spend money that you really shouldn't be spending. And, God has graced my husband and I to do very well, but I still have discipline. You know what I mean? I don't just go spend just because the money is in the bank. Everything has to have a purpose. And I got to understand what season I'm in, because there's certain seasons. In 2016, Benicia, I was just buying a property every single week. Honest to God, I was buying a property. I was getting them for like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 every single week. That was the season. I wasn't really doing a lot of shopping for shoes and clothes because it wasn't my season for that. It was a season of asset accumulation for me. So I want you all to think about that as you're listening to her. What season am I in? You might be in a cleanup season. You know what I'm saying? Or you might be in a season where you like, okay, I'm ready to start buying, or help me get my credit together. Because those are the things that we want to look at. I want to ask you too about, because now you cannot just buy an investment property, but you can also get land. Banks will give you, if you have land, like we own land here in Tennessee, we own land in Detroit. You could say, hey, what do you want to build there? What is that process? Let's say with my land, I got some land and I want to build, let's just say a 5-story or 10-unit apartment building. You can get approved for that too. What is that process?
Yep. So the deal with my company is that you can buy land, but it has to be something attached to it. So we have to know you're going to develop it. Something needs to take place. There's no financing for just land only. So if you want to develop your land, let's say you bought 4 acres in Arizona, and you want to create a community. Maybe you want to put 10 houses on whatever big, 30 half an acre lot or 3/4 acre lot or whatever you want to do. So the only thing you'll need in order to build is your down payment. That's the primary. It's 20 to 25%. That does not change. It doesn't go down and it won't go up. It's 20 to 25%. And then you'll need to put your project in your business name, because you can't build an investment property in Joe Smith's name. You have to put it in your LLC, your corporation, your business. Once you have those 2 things in order, you can qualify to build a house. The last part is that you have to have experience as a builder. So these are the things you have to have experience in if you want banks to loan you money. If you're trying to build something, you have experience as a builder. If you don't personally have it, you can have someone on your team that has it. as long as they are a part of your group. Okay, so if you want to contract a contractor, you can definitely do that. He's a part of your team as far as the banks are concerned because he's submitted in as the primary person with experience in your loan packet.
Quick question. If somebody wants to just buy investment properties, do they need to have a history of being an investor, or could they come in fresh, never invested before?
You can come in fresh, never invested. There's no rules in the United States that says you have to have experience to own real estate. Absolutely not. Now, if you're looking to buy a 100-unit apartment complex and you've only owned your primary residence as a single home, then the bank is going to say, how are you going to maintain 100 units? Do you know what you're doing? No, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have money and I just want to buy it. Well, that doesn't add up, right? A bank is not going to take that kind of risk on you. However, if you have migrated and multiplied and just been consistent with your real estate transactions, and you went from a duplex to a fourplex, maybe you have a sixplex, maybe it's turning profit, you've had it for the last 10 years, now you want to graduate to maybe 40 units, that makes sense. Okay, so it's going to have to make sense for the bank to buy what you're selling as well. You can't just come in and say, I want to buy 100 units. Stuff like that's not going to work. But if you've shown a historic value of experience, another thing is hotels, because I can fund hotels. If you want to build or buy or develop or renovate or own a hotel, you absolutely can. You just have to have experience building, buying, renovating, or owning working in the inner works and the operations of a hotel. We call it keys. Multifamily, we call it doors. Hotels, we call it keys because you use the key to open the door. So you have to have experience with keys. You have to have experience with understanding the operations of how a hotel works before a bank will just give you $5 million for your purchase of whatever the building is. So things like that, they will look at. If you have a better portfolio, the chances are greater that you will be approved. But just generally speaking, if you just want to buy a fourplex, absolutely not. You can buy whatever you want.
Love. Oh, we're about to have so much fun. So all of you that are listening that are like, hey, I've never invested before, we got you, right? Or I have invested before, but I want to, scale. Like I started off with single families. And after I did that for a while, I made good money. And so when the market was in my favor, and then I said, okay, next time I'm not doing single families, I'm ready to go on to multiple units. But honest to God, there is no way that I would have wanted to go straight to an apartment building as my first investment.
Right.
Because there was way too many things that I had to learn from. Even having a property manager, I still had my hands involved. And I would recommend, for those of you that are investing, we're not interested in helping you to have another job. Like ultimately, I want everybody to be able to live off of the ROI, the return on the investment. So you go from maybe making $1,000 a month ROI with rent roll, maybe then 10 units and 20 units, and eventually up to 20,000 a month, 50,000 a month in ROI. But you're not going to start there. Start with single families, because even with having that property manager, you need to still, be engaged and involved in your business so that you understand all the inner workings of it. I'm not as involved with my real estate as I used to be. My property manager does it, but I'm still talking to her usually once a week. I know the contractors that are working on the business. I know the people down at the city of Detroit when it's time to pay property taxes. One time we had a tax bill slip through the, cracks, and they wanted to put it up for auction. Thank God I had a relationship with somebody that had a relationship. So I still think it's your business. So you need to be involved. So Benicia, will you talk about that? Because I think sometimes, even though I don't want people to have another job, but it is important that you understand the inner workings of what's happening, from evictions to having legal counsel, talking to your real estate attorney, not just depending on your property manager to do everything, but you still need to be involved.
Yes. So it first starts with, when you do a real estate transaction, typically you'll have a real estate agent that's attached. All transactions do not require a real estate. Well, first of all, no transaction requires a real estate agent. A real estate agent is there, a professional person that kind of knows more than you do, right? So they can have your back when it comes to different verbiage and words and educating you, but all real estate agents are not equal. So make sure that you get somebody who is well-versed in what you are trying to buy. So if you're buying a multifamily, if you're buying a commercial building, if you are buying something, make sure that that real estate professional understands exactly what you're trying to do. So that way they know how to guide you, because they're going to be your first line of defense. they're going to be the ones that are going to introduce you to those appraisals, those appraisers, inspectors, relationships with people from the city. You can also gain that from your real estate professional. They can guide you in the right direction. A lot of high profile realtors that do this every day, such as myself, because I still have a license, they're going to be the ones that will help be your guide on, right? So the next step is obviously when you're dealing with building, developing relationships with the city is important. Okay. These are the people who are going to approve your final permits. They're going to approve your final plans. And I'm not saying you got to take them out to dinner because we don't want to bribe anybody, but I'm saying be a kind person, because these people are in control of what's going to be your next steps. If you're rude, if you're disrespectful, they don't have to really play the game with you. They can just move on to somebody else. So just be mindful of that. Going down to the city and having relationships with the tax division. Like Jules said, when it fell through the cracks, had she not known somebody, she may have lost her property just because of default, right? And so just having those connections with individuals in better places and spaces than you, they may be able to even guide you with a little bit of information. They're not someone that you want to pick their brain and just take up all their time, but it's just somebody that you can have as a lean on. And so a property manager as well. So people think, oh, I don't want to buy this because I don't know, I can't manage it by myself. Well, nobody said you had to manage it by yourself. Hire a property manager. You should be able to acquire and scale, acquire, then scale. That's the goal in life. We don't want to just get one. We want to have multiples, right? So if you have to have support and you want to get to the next step, we go faster alone, but we go farther together, right? So hire people who can be on your team. That, property management, I think the highest they take is like 8%. Mm-hmm. So, what do you want, a headache, or would you rather pay up to 8% to know that the rent is paid, the tenants are managed, the people are okay, and the only thing you have to do is do it once or twice, maybe 3 times a week check-in. You know what I mean? Yeah. So stuff like that, just thinking bigger and thinking better is going to help you build and scale financially and wealth-wise.
Ooh, girl, it's the bigger, better for me. It's the bigger, better for me. And that's what we want. I don't want anybody to just get to a place and be like, and stop when you could have kept going. And, Benicia, was something you told me. You're like, hey, once we get this loan and you pay for 6 months to a year, we can go back to the bank and say, okay, now, Jewel wants to buy another property, because it's in the interest of the bank to continue to loan money as long as they feel like it is a good risk, right? Because that's how banks make money.
Let me tell you why minorities have such a hard time with money. Because we don't have relationships with banks. We don't have relationships with banks because we don't do this kind of business on a consistent basis. So when you create that relationship, now I will loan you more money because I've already seen you, I've experienced you, I've already went through your portfolio. Maybe certain things may change, maybe it may grow, maybe it may decrease. But at the end of the day, I already validated you because we've already done business. I've lent you money. I know that you pay on time. When 6 months later you come back, you get $1 million this time, I'll give you $100 million next time. So it's relationship building. It's not discriminatory at all. It's about coming in and just doing the business the first time. Now I know you're in the system, you're in the pipeline, and now we have that connection going. It's going to flow. So typically when you go back to a bank the second and third time, they don't turn you away. They're just looking for that first connection.
They're just looking for the consistency. And I have to hit this because you talked about don't go in there being rude. Don't go in there and be, with an attitude. And that's one of the things that, I really love about you. You're approachable, just a nice person. Talk about how much you think that's played in just your overall success, because I think there's nothing worse than somebody, acquiring wealth, being blessed, favor, things are popping, and they're just like this mean girl energy. And it's like, girl, or sometimes guys just egotistical, like, I don't, it's so not necessary. And I think that it ends up really hurting people more than they realize. Even if they're still moving along, you're going to get further by just being a nice person.
Absolutely. I think that, I've never met a mean girl that really got far. It's an illusion, it's an illusion. So I think that people buy you before they buy what you're selling. And if you have a nasty aura, they're going to not gravitate towards you. They're going to actually go in the opposite direction. So even when people need you, that won't last long, because eventually they'll find somebody else that can give you exactly the same thing. Then it'll come to find out that you weren't worth the value that you thought you were. Now you have to humble yourself. Then you have to start over. So they're just taking a scenic route in life. They'll end up taking a scenic route. They'll end up right back where they were after they've learned their lessons and stuff like that. And but yeah, I think you definitely get farther when you treat people the way you want to be treated. And it's so far since I've been in entrepreneurship. Now, when I was working corporate America, you got to walk like a duck, right? You got to follow their rules and do everything people tell you to do. Well, in entrepreneurship, the sky's the limit. There's no ceiling. So you could just go left, right, center. You can do cartwheels. You can wake up whenever you feel like it. You can do whatever you want. So it's empowering to be able to run your own shop. And when you run your own shop, if you don't treat people the way you want to be treated, people will go somewhere else. And so if you're in a people business, a product-based business where you are serving people, you have to set it up the right way to where people want to gravitate towards you. You have to give them something to want to do business with you for.
Yeah, you do. And I think, it's important. So that point. So just try smiling. Try walking in the room and just smiling. Try walking in the room and not waiting for people to speak to you, but you speak to them. I think it shows a tremendous amount of confidence. And the reality is people like to do business with people that are confident and people that are kind. My husband and I talk about that all the time with our children. I'm like, they're not going to really care what you have. They're not going to really care what your name is. They're not going to care how much you know, how much you have. But at the end of the day, people are going to remember how you made them feel, which is why when you meet somebody that's been highly successful and they're warm, you're like, oh my gosh, she was so nice. It's like they remember it, because out of all the things you've done, they walked away with like, wow, Benicia was really a nice person. Jill was really a nice person. And so I just want to say that because we are definitely about our bag. We're definitely about empowering people and helping people. But I never want to lose, and I don't want you to lose, those of you that are listening, that connective tissue. Because I think that is probably your greatest legacy of adding value to people and let them know that they're loved and that they're important, especially in this day and time where people are dealing with so much mental health and depression and suicide. It is just at an all-time high. And so the Lord has really captured my heart with that. And like, hey, be really sensitive when you walk into this room and these people are maybe there to take pictures of you or interview you. Just be really mindful that you focus on them for those 5 minutes or those 3 minutes, and make sure that they know that Jesus loves them and that you appreciate whatever it is that they're doing in your life. And I think that makes such a big difference. Benicia, listen, child, we about to play and make a lot of money, help a lot of people make a lot of money. Okay. So what's the last thing? I know, right, girl? Me too. What's the last thing you want to leave with the audience before we get ready to wrap today?
Yeah, I want to leave with the audience that, we lack access to capital in our community. Don't forget that. So when you're looking to do business with someone, make sure you're doing business with people who want to do business with you back, not because you're just in a desperate need. Do your research on companies, do your research on people. And there's a huge disparity. So just be mindful of where you're putting your dollars.
Be really mindful where you're putting your dollars.
Yes.
And gain relationships with the banks that you're doing business with. Yes. And come play with us because we're going to definitely do everything we can to really empower you and put you in a position to win. Benicia, thank you so much for getting on here, girl. I appreciate you, and looking forward to doing some really great things and helping change a lot of people's lives today. I know you guys are blessed. Again, thanks for joining us. Listen, guys, oh my gosh, this was so good. We're going to have to do this Wealth Mastermind again because, sheesh, I mean, y'all probably like me. I'm like, ooh, child, it was just so much, right? I got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of people's lives to change. And I hope that you're encouraged to be better stewards of your money. I hope that some of you will pick up bookkeepers like we talked about, and make sure you pay your taxes. You do not want to be playing with the IRS, okay? Pay your taxes. And if you haven't paid them, get with a tax strategist to help you get on track. And then, like Benicia said, get history. Make sure you get a job. You know, if you don't have a job, get a job. If you have a business, try to stay with that business because they're going to be looking for consistency. You know what I mean? When they ask for your bank statements, they want to see consistency. And listen, everybody goes through a challenging time, but don't let that challenging time define you. And then take the risk. Like she talked to God, he guided her. She started in real estate. She got the real estate license, right? Because every move in God is going to take you higher. She got the real estate license. She killed it in the real estate game. She saw there's a flow here for my life. Then she said, okay, let me go buy this land. Then she said, okay, so you can see there's progression. His plan is always more. It is never to take you backwards. Now, sometimes we got to do a little reverse to do some correction or whatever. But for the most part, he wants to advance you. He wants to progress you. He wants to bring you into more and more and more because he wants you to impact more people. So listen, this Wealth Mastermind was so good. I'm almost like, I don't need to do another one for May, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, thanks so much for joining. Connect with us. Get into our community. Follow her on Instagram. Follow all the speakers on Instagram and Facebook. Join their communities. Support their conferences because they are real teachers, right? A lot of fake teachers out there. I love them too. But when you start talking about who you're going to follow a real teacher, somebody that's really living it privately when nobody else is looking, not for the gram, because that's really who they are. So make sure you follow them on Instagram and Facebook. Follow me, join our community because we want to help you build hard assets and digital assets, but mainly hard assets. So thanks so much.